Hello, good evening, welcome to the stream, welcome to the channel. If you're new here, tonight we're playing a new game. It comes out Friday, in 2 days. This is the pre-order early access, so it's still kind of a beta version. There might still be some bugs tonight. But we're going to be playing some baseball. Manager-only challenge, playing in manager-only mode with my my favorite, right there, right there, my favorite, the Minnesota Twins. Baseball has been, well, it was my first sport that I liked. It's been my favorite sport for forever. So that's what we're doing tonight. We're going to see how we do as the manager of the Minnesota Twins. But we have no control over the roster. We have no control over the transactions. Yeah, because we're just the manager. We set the lineups and we try and win the games. So that's what we're going to do tonight. So yeah, thanks for being here. Hang out, watch it for a little bit, and let's have some fun. First thing I want to do when we get started tonight, we're going to go over the what we have for an opening day roster. Obviously, on this first screen, we can see we do have a few injuries. Reliever Cody Stashik is out for 3 weeks. Randy Dobnak's out for 2 months, although he probably doesn't figure in the rotation anyways, even if he's healthy. He's more of a AAA, maybe a 4A type of player. He provides some depth, maybe at the back end of the rotation, long emergency starter, long relief type of thing. Kenta Maeda is another long-term injury. 6 months as he recovers from Tommy John surgery. So he'll be out for April. So he'll be out. He's going to miss the whole season. He wouldn't be back until the beginning of October. So, going to be a while before we get Kenta Maeda back. Excuse me. But he's on a really reasonable contract at $3 million a year, and he'll have next year as well. See if there's anything left in the tank. Coming back from Tommy John surgery at what'll be 30, almost 35 years old by that point. So that's our team injuries. Here it is. On the roster, we're starting because of some rules with the lockout and stuff. Starting with 28 players on the Major League roster right from the start here. Our pitching staff looks like Sonny Gray, Joe Ryan, Bailey Ober, Chris Paddock, Dylan Bundy. Let's go to our pitching ratings. So, opening day starter looks like it's going to be Sonny Gray. Again, this is, for anybody unfamiliar, this is a 20/80 scale on the ratings. So 60 stuff, 60 movement, and 50 control are definitely above average. Should be solid. So Sonny Gray, and then leaning towards Joe Ryan was the default one here. At 55, 40, 55, I'm leaning towards moving Bailey Ober up, actually. I think we're going to do Ober. I think we want to do Ober, and then Bundy, and then Paddock and Ryan. I think I want Joe Ryan to be last. I think we're going to go, we're going to try this. We're going to do Gray, Ober, Bundy, Paddock, and Ryan. So we'll have Sonny Gray, 60, 60, 50 here. Again, he'll be our opening day starter. Has done, well in the past, especially in 2019 with Cincinnati. Last year wasn't quite as good with the 4.19 ERA, 4.07 FIP. So, I mean, the ERA is probably fairly representative of how he actually pitched, judging by how close it is to the FIP. 1.3 homers per nine. You'd like to see that come down a little bit. Obviously, 3.3 walks per nine is okay. 10 Ks per nine for a starting pitcher obviously is pretty good. So, yeah, Sonny Gray is the opening day starter. Followed by Bailey Ober, who I think qualifies for being a rookie. Or no, 92 innings is probably too many. Anyways, yeah, Bailey Ober, his second season in the majors. No, that's it. Maybe played back in 2014. Anyways, so last year with the Twins, wasn't great, but we're gonna go with Bailey Ober for starter number 2. Followed by Dylan Bundy. Has had some flashes in the past, way back in 2016, 2017. Was really good in the shortened season in 2020. And then last year was not good at all. So he's on a $4 million contract this season with a team option for $11 million next season. Followed by, and then we're going to have new, just recently acquired Chris Paddock. Traded with the trade with San Diego right before the season started there on April 7th. So again, he was a highly talented prospect for a long time. Has definitely kind of fallen off a little bit. Although this looks like he was a little bit unlucky last year with the 3.86 fielding independent pitching looks pretty good. About a 5.07 ERA kind of tells me that his fielding let him down a little bit. Hopefully we can rectify that and he'll be better here. 1.2 homers per 9 again is okay. I'd like to see that number under 1, obviously. 1.8 walks per 9 is fantastic. And then an 8.2 Ks per 9. Again, for a starting pitcher, that's solid enough. That definitely gets the job done. And then, so that was Gray, Ober, Bundy, and then Paddock. Actually, you know what we're going to do? We're changing this up again as I go through this. I'm going Paddock all the way up to number 2. So Gray, Paddock, Ober, Bundy, and then Joe Ryan will be the 5th starter. He's a rookie. Showed some nice flashes at the end of last season. Under 4 on the FIP. Really nice control with the 1.7 walks per 9, 10.1 Ks per 9, 1.3 homers per 9. So kind of right in line with the rest of our starters. Although that BABIP is insanely low because of the small sample size. So obviously that's going to come up, which means the hits are going to come up, which probably is going to drive up the FIP a little bit. We'll see how that goes. And then that takes us into our bullpen. We're going to start with a pretty full bullpen here because, again, we've got 28 players on the roster, which means we're starting with, thanks to our general manager, Dad Levine, we are starting with 15 pitchers on the pitching staff. Long relief at the back of the bullpen. Jarrell Cotton pitched pretty well actually for Texas out of their bullpen last season. But slated for a long relief role at the back of the pen, emergency starter. Same thing with Chris Archer, brought in as a free agent, towards the end of spring training there, on a really cheap contract this year. And then if he plays pretty well, he gets we can have a player opt out or a team option for $10 million for next season. But again, that'll all be in the hands of Thad Levine. Again, Archer, lots of stuff. The movement and control are definitely lacking. So that'll be something that is kind of holding him back a little bit at this stage of his career, at 33 and a half years old. And then again, lots of relief options. Jean Romero looks pretty solid there. Maybe not quite the stuff that Archer has, but better movement, better control at 50 with both of those. Fastball, slider. So this one is, obviously this one looks interesting. Was with Washington briefly last season, but basically has been a career minor leaguer up to this point, up to the age of 27 years old. So we'll see how he does. We also have Emilio Pagan. Home runs are going to be a problem. You can see that last year, 2.3 homers per 9, 1.5, 1.6. So homers have definitely been a problem his entire career. And they've gotten worse. He was a pretty decent closer in 2019 for Tampa. 4-2, 20 saves, 3.42 FIP. High home runs, but no walks, lots of strikeouts. But then last year in San Diego, the last 2 years in San Diego, wasn't nearly as good as he was in Tampa. So again, you can kind of see that with decent stuff, decent control, but the movement is definitely lacking for Emilio Pagan. Joe Smith is a righty specialist. I don't want him facing a left-handed batter ever, if I can help it. Significant splits there, obviously, with the 40-50, 40-55, and 65-75 on his splits. But Joe Smith has had a decent, has pitched decently in the majors before. Again, hopefully if we can put him in the right situations, mainly only using him against right-handed batters as much as we can help it. Again, ground balls, submarine style pitcher. We can make that work if we can keep him in the right situations. And then our main, one of the lefties that we have in our pen, Devin Smeltzer, has a three-year track record now in the majors with the Twins, actually. Last year was almost non-existent. 2019 and 2020 were with the club the entire time. Kind of in and out of the starting rotation, so he has the stamina to start on occasion, but again, he'll be a lefty out of the bullpen. Not much stuff, not much movement, so homers could be a problem. So strikeouts, not a lot. His Ks per 9, even coming up through the minors, was only above 10 once. 7, 8.4. So, as a starter, you'd expect him to be around 7 as a reliever. Maybe he can push that up to 8. But yeah, not great on the strikeout front for Smeltzer. However, he has very good control. Less than 3 walks per 9 throughout his minor and major league career is pretty solid. We can definitely work with that, but that's obviously his main strong suit. And then young, hard-throwing right-hander John Duran, one of the higher-rated prospects in baseball, ranked number 30th by the game right now. He's a rookie. This will be his first major league experience. Again, coming up through the minors, lots of strikeouts, occasionally lots of walks, not a lot of home runs, which I find kind of interesting. So maybe, based on, I look at this, 0.9, 0.5, 0.8, 0.6, 0.5, 0.6, coming up through the minors, those are all very low numbers. And especially as a starting pitcher coming up through the minors. He's going to start in the bullpen for us, but, I wonder if maybe our scouting accuracy at the moment on him is only average. I'm wondering if this is a little bit inaccurate. Maybe this is a little bit higher than that. We can hope. We'll see how he does, getting some time introduced to the majors out of the bullpen. Again, sinker, curveball, slider, splitter, stamina of 50, so he can eventually be a starting pitcher or fill in now in case there's an injury. But again, you like the extreme ground ball profile, throws hard, throws lots of pitches that get ground balls. The stuff has the potential to go up a little bit, as does the control. The control, I think, is the main thing holding him back now. If his control were at 50 now, he'd probably be in the starting rotation. So we'll have to see how he does again out of the bullpen. Maybe we get him worked into the rotation. If one of these guys at the back, if Bundy or Ryan or Ober, any of these three kind of at the back, really even Paddock, any of these 4 struggle, Duran's probably the first one that gets a shot at filling in their spot in the rotation. And then towards the back end of our bullpen, we've got another lefty, Danny Colomb, 32 years old, been in and out of the majors for Oakland and then for the Twins. Again, was with the club the entire year last year, 29 appearances, 1 start. 3-2 record. 3.67 ERA, 3.84 FIP, 1.2 WHIP. Again, the home runs really is the main thing holding him back here at 1.3. If that's under 1, he looks fantastic because he doesn't walk anybody. The K's have been there in the past. A little bit low last season with the Twins. Hopefully that bounces back a little bit. But that's going to be our first option kind of towards the back end of the bullpen there. And then Tyler Duffy really has a really solid major league track record at this point in his career. He's just 31 years old. 3.6, 3.1. Struggled in 2018. Bounced back in 2019, and then was really good in the short season in 2020, and was solid again last year for the Twins with 64 appearances, 3 wins, 3 losses, 3 saves. Really like the K percentage of 24%. The walk percentage was a little bit high last year at 11. That was his first year over 10 on the walks. So that's definitely concerning, seeing that be 4 walks per 9. The K is at 8.8 per 9. Again, you'd like to see those a little bit higher. Maybe he bounces back a little bit this year. We'll have to see how that goes. And then our closer to start the year is going to be Caleb Theobar. Again, another guy with low movement. The bullpen is going to be giving up home runs. We're just going to have to hope there's nobody on base when they do it. But good stuff, good control. You can see that here. Again, over 1 on the home runs per 9 is really a concern. But 2.8 walks per 9 isn't terrible. 10.8 Ks per 9 also gets the job done. But again, he's been this will be his 3rd season. He was real solid in the short season in 2020. Was real solid last year as well, although he didn't get the chance to close last year. But 59 appearances, 7 wins, a 3.6 FIP, a 1.17 WHIP. ERA plus was good. His FIP, his normalized FIP rating was also good. Both of those were well above league average. So Caleb Theobar is our closer, currently on a $1.3 million contract in arbitration, as this is his this will be his first year going into arbitration. No, this must be his 2nd year going into arbitration if he's on $1.3 million. That covers our pitching staff. Woo! Okay, on to our lineups. Now this is my first time looking at these lineups, so these were the default ones that the AI set up when you fire up the game, so we'll be kind of taking a look at this and seeing what we like here. So, currently on the roster, Ryan Jeffers is our backup catcher. Strong catcher ability, average to maybe slightly above average arm there at 45. Has some room to grow here. You can see that our scouts think that he's got a little bit of room to grow, mainly in his contact and his avoiding Ks, both of those, and the plate discipline as well. So some improvement to his plate discipline, making a little bit better contact with the ball. He's probably a starting catcher. He got the chance kind of off and on to start last year. Almost 300 plate appearances, but the average obviously was really bad. The WOBA was below 300. None of that is what you want to see. He was better than that in the past. His first stint, in the short season of 2020, towards the end there, he was actually really solid. So this is a bit of a surprise to see him drop off that much from 2020 to 2021. He wasn't good at St. Paul in the minors last season either. So this is definitely a concern, but he'll start out the year as the backup. Maybe we start to see some growth, and he works his way back into the starting lineup. Because one of the big postseason acquisitions, you'll have to help me with that name. Jaron Nullet, thanks for the follow. Appreciate that. Gary Sanchez does not help in his pitches at all with his catcher ability, but he has a very strong arm, so he's not going to help the pitchers keep anybody off base, but when they do get on base, he could throw them out when they try and steal second. Definitely selfish, focused only on himself. The contact, the avoid Ks just are awful. He's a long ways away from 2019 where he hit 34 home runs already. Just 3 years later, we're looking at him as, he's been traded away from the Yankees. He's been traded from the New York Yankees to the Minnesota Twins. That's kind of the state of his career at this point. It's not great. This is his last this was his last arbitration year. So $8 million, and then he's a free agent after this season. Interesting to see if Thad brings him back for us next year. But So yeah, last season, just 204. Walked plenty though, because 307 on base percentage isn't terrible. The ISO was above 200. The WOBA was over 300. So he's approaching league average there. I think. Where's his OPS plus? His OPS plus is 99. So yeah, essentially league average as a hitter. 1.8 WAR. Again, not terrible. You'd like to see a little bit more than that. Just slightly below league average on the OPS plus and the weighted runs created plus as well. He's our starting catcher. We'll see where he fits into the lineup when we get to there. Jose Miranda looks amazing. I gotta say, he was an absolute monster at both AA and AAA last season. Hit over 340 at both levels. Combined for 30 home runs. Combined for 32 doubles. Must not have his OPS for his AAA numbers were way above league average on both the OPS plus and the weighted runs created as well. An absolute amazing minor league season last season. Doesn't strike out a lot, 11.5, 13% on the strikeout percentage, 8 to 7%. Obviously, the jump from AA to AAA makes sense there, going from 8 down to 7, and then going from 11.5 up to 13. That makes sense there. We'll see what kind of numbers he ends up with. Again, he's going to be 24 soon, out of Cuba, but he looks absolutely outstanding. The defense at first base is going to grow, so he's definitely a long-term future at first base. What that means for Miguel Sano, I don't know. Sano could easily strike out 200 times, and nobody would be surprised by this. But he's also going to hit 30 home runs while he does it. But yeah, last season, again, struggled for a long time. The batting average was only at 223. The WOBA was at 330, so even with the struggles with the batting average and the strikeouts, he's putting up above average numbers, with a 111 OPS plus and a 109 weighted runs created plus. So again, compared to the league average, he is slightly above the league average, but only slightly. And obviously for somebody who you would think would be a part of your long-term future, that's not ideal. So looking at his contract, again, this is the last year of this contract, $9.25 million contract with a team option for $14 million for next season. So again, maybe this just ends up being his last year here. Maybe he's traded away and the first base job becomes Jose Miranda's. We'll see. If Sano struggles, Sano is going to start, but if he struggles out of the gate, looks like he's on pace for 200 strikeouts. There's no reason not to give Jose Miranda the first base job, in 2 or 3 weeks or even a month, if Sano seems like he's struggling. But, first base is going to be interesting. And then I think we'll give a little bit of time. That's something that I am not 100% sure of, because when I opened the game up and started looking at this caught me by surprise. Obviously, he was on these are the opening day roster, so he's on the opening day roster. And then you look at his numbers, in the minors last season where he just exploded. I would think they have to be high on him, and they're just kind of maybe waiting to see what Sano does this year before Miranda takes the first base job full time. I'm gonna have to do some research on that. And kind of see what that looks like. Because like I said, I was definitely a bit surprised when I opened this up and started going through the roster and saw how well he's rated right now, plus his potential ratings. And then I saw, the numbers that he put up last season between AA and AAA. I would think they have to be high on him. That's a good question. And it's something that, I'm going to have to go and do some reading on myself and see if I can get an idea of what the organization actually thinks of him in real life. Jorge Polanco starts at second base. can sort of maybe fill in at shortstop in an emergency, but it's not great. But high contact and decent avoid Ks. The walks might be a little bit low, but some nice gap and home run power as well. And he's on a very friendly contract, at least at this stage here, as it builds up towards, over the next 3 or 4 years. And then Gio Urshela also came over from the Yankees in the big trade about a month ago now. When was this trade? I think it was March 13th, thereabouts, somewhere in the middle of March. But again, yeah, that was definitely a bit of a surprise. The Twins flipping a kind of 11 for Gary Sanchez and Gio Urshela. And then, of course, signing Carlos Correa. I was really surprised at how busy they were in March. Gio Urshela is probably starting at third base. Plays solid defense there, has range, has a strong arm. Plate discipline's a little bit weak, but everything else is pretty good there with the contact, the gap power, and the home run power. I would expect him to bounce back from this. He definitely struggled a little bit last season. Hopefully I get this Gio Urshela here. The one who hit 30 doubles and 20 home runs, as opposed to the one who didn't hit 20 of either last season. And definitely struggled a bit with the plate discipline. The walk rate, you can see, obviously is really low at, sub 5% of walk rate, with a strikeout rate nearing 25%. Obviously, if it's below 20% like it was in 2019, this is a lot better. Yes. Hey, Alex. The Twins were, I think I woke up to go to work one morning, so I woke up at like 4 o'clock in the morning, and I, was looking at my phone, and it jumped off the phone. I had to read it like 3 times to make sure that I actually read it correctly. I was like, wait, the Twins signed Carlos Correa? Like, what? Am I in the right universe? Because I was shocked. I was very surprised by that. But also it made me very excited. How busy the Twins were in March kind of also helped with my overall excitement for this baseball season, because for a long time I was not convinced that there was even going to be baseball this year. So once that ball started moving, and then we got into, they obviously was like, all right, we're gonna start games. The lockout ended. It was like, okay, now I'm excited about this. And then, of course, I love out of the park baseball, so the build up to that as well has been very exciting for me. Just kind of an overall. And then the Twins went out and was like, no, we're going for it. We're signing Carlos Correa to a 3-year deal with an opt out after each year, which is just, interesting. I guess I don't really have a great word for it, but yeah, it's an interesting contract with having the opt out after each year. So I mean, if he has a good year, I would imagine he's gone. But for 1 year, you get Carlos Correa, you get a couple guys from the Yankees who can hit in. Well, I actually like Urshela a lot better than I like Gary Sanchez. That's a bit of an auto, and I actually expected them to flip Gary Sanchez for something else, but that didn't happen. So we'll see. And then, of course, we'll see how I can do managing them with the AI running the show behind the scenes for me. Anyways, back to Gio Urshela. Hopefully I can get this Gio Urshela, who's 30 points above league average on both the OPS plus and the runs created, rather than this one, who was definitely below league average here with the 96 and the 95 in those same 2 categories. But he'll be starting at third base. And then, of course, the guy we were just talking about, the big acquisition, will be starting at shortstop, Carlos Correa, 60, 55, 55, 60, and 50. I'm expecting him to hit, push for hitting 280, and with some doubles and some home runs. Again, 30 points above league average here. In 2019, he was 40 points above league average on the OPS plus and the runs created plus. Yeah, Alex agreed. It's a weird one. If he plays well, but they struggle overall, I would imagine he's gone after 1 year. But maybe, like you said, maybe if they do play well, maybe if they get to the postseason, make a deep postseason run, maybe he sticks around for one more year and gives it another shot. But anyways, I have pretty high expectations for Carlos Correa, and of course he's excellent defensively as well. With 70, 75, he's got a real strong arm, lots of range. So yeah, it's an interesting contract with $35 million. Oh, I thought that the opt-out was after each year, but they only, of course, it might just be a limitation with the game. I'm not sure, but the opt-out is after the first year and then not again until the third year of the contract. Or maybe that's just displayed weird because there wouldn't be an opt-out after the end of the contract. So yeah, that must just be displayed a little bit weird. So anyways, there's his $35 million a year contract. I wish somebody would pay me $35 million to play baseball. But I'm not Carlos Correa. Nick Gordon, weak bat, great middle of the infield defense. However, well, maybe not great, but definitely good to above average to well above average defense in the middle of the infield, with the ability to be an excellent base runner as well. Yeah, I mean, again, you're hoping that maybe he hits league average, but then steals. He's a very, very efficient base stealer. Stole 10 bases last year, was only caught once. So that looks good. But again, the bat is definitely going to be a struggle. Luis Arias, of course, with Polanco now and Carlos Correa and Gio Urshela on the team. Yeah, actually, I didn't see. I thought I remembered him playing in center field last season as well. But they don't have that in here. Yeah, he doesn't have any training in center field. So maybe that's something I can kind of, but maybe that's something that I can kind of start to do, see what that looks like. Because the 55 range, 55 air, and 55 arm all three of those are good enough for him to play in the outfield. So again, it's just be a matter of, starting training him out there and getting him pushed up towards what should be a halfway decent, center field rating. Luis Arias in left field can cover some in the infield, but actually the left field defense is sort of coming along. It's not awful. It's not good, but it's not awful. We'll see how it goes. But doesn't strike out, puts the ball on play a ton, doesn't hit home runs. Yeah, surprisingly, he hit 6 triples last season. I don't know where that came from. Definitely I think last season had to have been his best season. Oh, maybe not. Maybe 2019 was his best season. Yeah, I don't have any plans of playing Arias at third base. He's definitely going to be playing out in left field, with Urshela playing at third base. Or, again, actually the game has him starting as a DH, which actually probably makes more sense because Kirilloff is out in left field. I spoke a little bit too soon there. Still a little bit of development here for Kirilloff. The gap power, the home run power, the plate discipline are all coming up. The contacts all should be coming up this season. Probably showed some flashes last season. Ended up being slightly below average, but again, for his first 200 major league at bats, there's nothing wrong with that. And again, obviously the expectations for him to develop are still pretty high. Yeah, that was a fun time when Kepler and Kirilloff were absolute studs. Kirilloff can play some first base. However, with the emergence of Miranda and, of course, Sano still being here, I don't expect that to happen at all. But again, corner outfield, okay. 55, 50, 60. No, yeah, I guess he is at his max, because it would show his potential if he had any higher potential there. So I guess 60 is his max there. Maybe occasionally steals a base, plays, okay defense. Mainly you're waiting for the bat to come along here a little bit farther, expecting some more power, expecting a lot more gap. Yeah, I really like Alex Kirilloff. Byron Buxton, of course, is the star. It's a shame that he got hurt already this season because he was well on his way to MVP contention, I think. The expectations for Buxton, if he can stay healthy, are through the roof. If he somehow manages to hit 300, he's Interesting. The speed is finally coming down. I loved having him playing with him in past years because you could just run every time he was on first base, stealing second every single time. So I'm actually going to have to think about whether I run with him or not because his speed rating has finally caught up with the fact that he doesn't steal as often. But again, he's still very efficient at it. 14 out of 17, 9 out of 10 last season. Managed to hit 300 over just 250 plate appearances with an insane 23 doubles and 19 home runs. For a 340 ISO, 1,000 OPS, way above league average here, with 169, 168 there on the normalized metrics. I love Byron Buxton. He plays amazing in center field. If he can avoid the strikeouts, which he's sort of starting to do a little bit, you can see kind of a little bit of a progression here, where it was nearly 30, and then it was 23, and then of course in the short season, everybody kind of declined a little bit there. That went back up to 26, but then it was back down to 24 last season. So yeah, knows. Pretty high expectations for Byron Buxton. I expected him to win the Gold Glove. I expected him to be a mainstay in the middle of the lineup. I love Byron Buxton. Celestino I actually like as a pretty solid prospect. Can play all three outfield positions. So yes, but I think it's more of a metric of his. I think speed. If I'm not mistaken, speed is his aggressiveness. Correct? It's more of a measure of his aggressiveness, and then his ability would be the stealing rating and the base running rating, I think. Although Alex obviously will correct me if I'm wrong on that. But I feel like I remember that kind of being a thing from the past that has been talked about before. Celestino on the opening day roster. Again, he can train up really well in left field, can also play center, can play right. The bat is lacking a little bit. The speed rating, like for Buxton, he's one of the fastest players in the league, but he only has a 60 speed rating. Yeah, kind of more of a measure of his aggressiveness, if I remember correctly. I think that I might not be remembering how the speed rating works correctly. So yeah, Celestino again. There's obviously a lot of room for growth with his bat, but the defense is there. Oh, see, there you go. So the speed rating really only influences beating out singles on the infield, and then along with some other minor things. Okay, awesome. Thank you, Alex. So, looking at Buxton, you can see how efficient he is with stealing with the 70 and then the 75 base running. He's very good on the base paths. Maybe not quite so great out of the box, is kind of what I'm getting out of this. Yes, that is very interesting. And then, of course, final piece of the puzzle here, Max Kepler. Has an interesting batting profile because the contact is a little bit low, but he doesn't strike out a lot either, and has pretty good plate discipline. The strikeout percentage is sub 20%, which these days is pretty good. And then the walk rate is above 10, which again is excellent. So he gets on base, but he just doesn't do a lot when he hits the ball. But great strong arm, solid defense in right field. Should be hopefully a lot of this is hopefully we can get the 2019 version of a lot of these guys. When Kepler hit 250 and had 36 home runs, the famed Bomba squad. If we can kind of recover some of the magic and get some of the 2019 version of a lot of these players, this is going to be a very, very fun season.